high above the Normandy fields, Staff Sergeant William Cooper braced himself against the northern bombsight. His eyes were fixed on a plume of yellow smoke below. He was about to execute a mission demanding the utmost precision, unaware that the markers guiding his aim had shifted, carried silently by the wind. In the next 40 minutes, 340 British soldiers would die under American bombs. William Cooper was a man built on exact measurements and precision. Before the war, he worked a 60-40-acre wheat farm outside Grand Island, Nebraska. This life taught him the unforgiving nature of timing and precision. Plant too early, and frost claims the crop; plant too late, the harvest fails. Cooper possessed an uncanny ability to judge distances, often more accurately by eye. He could stand by his barn, estimating the 340-yard distance to the fence line. Then he would pace it off, always striving for perfection. He could be just 2 yards off his internal calculation. When Pearl Harbor propelled America into war, Cooper, 27, was beyond draft age, but enlisted. The Army Air Forces recognized his unique skill, his innate grasp of distance and trajectory. They needed bombardiers who could peer through a complex sight from miles above. These bombardiers would guide bombs onto a target as small as a barn. Cooper found his calling. He had been training for this his entire life. 6 months at Bombardier School in Midland, Texas, taught him to master the Norden bombsight. This intricate device combined optics and mechanical computers for wind, altitude, and drift. He was a natural, graduating second in his class and assigned to the 306 Bombardment Group. His very first mission, a severe bombing raid over Schweinfurt in October 1943. It saw heavy losses among B-17s, yet Cooper's bombs found their mark. His accuracy rate soared to 94%, far surpassing the 8th Air Force average of 61%. By July 1944, when a target absolutely had to be destroyed, Staff Sergeant Cooper led. By mid-July, Allied forces in Normandy had encountered a critical stalemate near St. Lo. German positions were deeply entrenched, repelling repeated American infantry assaults. To break this impasse, the Allies conceived Operation Cobra. It was a massive aerial bombardment designed to clear the path for American armor. Thousands of tons of explosives were planned for release by B-17s and B-24s. This was intended to neutralize the German defenses. The strategy was clear. Pathfinder aircraft would lay down yellow smoke markers to delineate the target zone. Bombers would approach from the north, releasing their payloads south of these markers. Bombers would approach from the north, releasing their payloads south, annihilating everything beyond. Crucially, the British 30th Infantry Division would be positioned north of the smoke. During the mission briefing at Thurley on July 24th, Cooper studied the map. The margin for error was razor-thin, a terrifying prospect. A slight misplacement of the markers, even by a few hundred yards. Such an error could lead to a devastating, fatal consequence. He raised his hand, his concern clear. What if wind moves the smoke? The briefing officer reassured him fresh markers would be laid before the bombing run. This left absolutely no time for significant wind drift. The color was yellow, a detail Cooper carefully noted. His instructions were etched into his mind: look for yellow smoke. Bombs south of yellow smoke. British troops north of smoke. Don't hit the British. The first attempt at Operation Cobra on July 24th was scrubbed due to weather. The following day, July 25th, the skies cleared for the mission. 1,500 bombers lifted off, Cooper's B-17 leading his bombardment group. His precision was paramount, as every aircraft behind him would follow his lead. At 9:30 a.m. they reached St. Lo, where Cooper peered through his bombsight. He then saw the yellow smoke, precisely where the briefing indicated. He aligned his crosshairs, but an unsettling intuition pricked at him. The smoke appeared further north than his navigation suggested it should be. With only 15 seconds to make a decision, he faced an impossible choice. Trust the visual markers as instructed or rely on his internal navigation. His internal navigation seemed to contradict the scene below. He chose to follow orders, keeping his crosshairs fixed on the yellow smoke. The Norden bombsight hummed, signaling the release as the B-17 lurched. As the B-17 lurched, 40 bombs fell away, tumbling towards the yellow plumes. At 9:38 a.m., they struck, erupting in a wave of explosions across the Normandy countryside. Cooper logged it bombs on target as 35 more B-17s released their payloads. Behind him, 35 more B-17s released their payloads on the same coordinates. Then, through the clearing smoke, Cooper saw it movement, vehicles, soldiers running. And then the unmistakable sight of Union Jacks, British flags fluttering amidst the chaos. His stomach dropped, realizing these were not German positions below. The yellow smoke was wrong, having been carried north over Allied lines. He grabbed the intercom, a desperate, hoarse cry, "We hit British troops." It was too late. Behind him, 500 bombers were already committed, following his mark. For 40 long minutes, American bombs rained down on British soldiers of the 30th Division. They had no cover, expecting the bombs to fall on their German adversaries to the south. Cooper, utterly powerless, watched wave after wave of bombers deliver their devastating payloads. He had bombarded German targets 23 times, but this felt profoundly different. These were the men he had come to liberate that day. Back in England, the debriefing was a scene of deep distress. Reports flooded in of severe casualties. The British 30th Division had sustained a profound blow. American units had also been inadvertently struck by the bombs. Over the next 48 hours, the casualty figures became agonizingly clear. 350 British soldiers killed, 890 wounded, while 11 American soldiers killed, 490 wounded. In total, 1831 Allied casualties, with German casualties being 0. The German forces had, in fact, pulled back from the area before the bombing began. The subsequent investigation was swift and unequivocal, confirming Pathfinder aircraft had marked the target. Pathfinder aircraft had indeed marked the target at 9:25 a.m., but by 9:38 a.m., an unforeseen wind had shifted the smoke 800 yards north. Cooper had bombed precisely where the smoke indicated. He had performed his duty flawlessly, but the smoke was simply in the wrong place. The conclusion, no fault, was attributed to the air crews. Yet, for William Cooper, the exoneration offered no solace. The faces of those 340 dead British soldiers haunted him. He flew 4 more missions, but his focus had fractured. Every bombsight seemed to show yellow smoke, conjuring images of British troops. During his 28th mission over Munich, his aircraft was struck by flak. Cooper was wounded, subsequently evacuated to England for treatment. Offered a Purple Heart and the chance to return to duty, he declined. He requested a discharge for combat fatigue in December 1944. He returned to Nebraska, carrying a burden that would never fully lift. Back on his farm, Cooper immersed himself in relentless 16-hour workdays. When neighbors inquired about the war, he simply stated he had flown bombers. They would politely change the subject, but Cooper wasn't merely trying to forget stresses of combat. He was trying to erase the memory of 340 men who had trusted him. He married Ruth in 1947, and together they had 3 children. He never disclosed his role as a bombardier, preferring to say he was a navigator. Some nights he would wake, muttering about yellow smoke. His farm prospered. He expanded to 200 acres and built a successful life. Yet he measured everything with an almost obsessive exactness, as if perpetually trying to prove he could still get something perfectly right. He believed that on July 25, 1944, he had gotten it exactly wrong. Through decades, the Army sent letters and historians called, but Cooper refused all. In 1984, Ruth, his wife, gently asked why he couldn't let it go. His answer was stark: because 340 men can't let it go either. They're dead. In 1994, on the 50th anniversary of D-Day, Cooper watched a British documentary about Operation Cobra. A British veteran, Geoffrey Mills, described the bombing and stated he didn't blame American crews. They had done what they were trained to do, he said, as war held painful errors. Cooper wrote to Mills, explaining he was the bombardier whose bombs were the first to hit. He accepted full responsibility, and Mills wrote back, echoing official findings. "You followed orders, the smoke was the target, you hit it." War is hell, no one's fault, and Cooper read the letter dozens of times. But it brought him no peace as William Cooper passed away on March 12, 1998. William Cooper passed away at 83 from a heart attack while working in his barn. His funeral was a small and very somber affair. The WW2 commander mentioned his 28 missions and Purple Heart. But Operation Cobra remained unspoken. Cooper's official mission logs were preserved in the National Archives. These logs note for July 25, 1944, bombs on target, yellow smoke, complete coverage. They do not mention British casualties, but grim detail is recorded in a separate file. That grim detail is recorded as friendly fire incidents, European theatre Operation Cobra. It lists 1831 Allied casualties attributed to wind drift. The file concludes, no fault attributed to aircrew, but Cooper never saw it that way. Operation Cobra succeeded, American armor broke through, and Paris was liberated 3 weeks later. Military historians often refer to it as a pivotal turning point. The 340 British dead are typically footnotes, a tragic consequence of conflict. He focused on the 340 men who had gone to sleep on July 24th expecting to advance. They expected to advance behind American bombers only to die beneath them. Cooper pressed the switch. The investigation cleared him, but relentless guilt remained. For 54 long years, Cooper, July 25, 1944. Every plowed field evoked bomb trajectories, every straight row, the memory of falling bombs. Every thank you for your service reminded him of the British soldiers who perished. They perished because he had trusted smoke over his own navigation. Jeffrey Mills had been right, war is hell, and often no one is truly at fault. But William Cooper could never reconcile himself with that truth. Someone he knew always presses the switch on that day. It was him. And 340 British soldiers paid the ultimate price that day.